In this video, we cover all 8 parts of the CELPIP speaking test with templates, tips and tricks, and covering the format of all questions. This is my best CELPIP speaking video so far. CELPIP speaking task 1 question. Your friend would like to learn English tutoring. Offer him or her some advice. Now, in this case, you're talking to a friend, which means it is informal. Let's come back to that. Preparation time here is 30 seconds. The speaking time is 90 seconds, so it's very long. Once again, since you're talking to the friend, focus on the tone. That's the first tip. You want to be informal. In this case, we want to use words like, hey, what's up, how's it going? Because you're talking to a friend. The next thing is focusing on only 2 to 3 quality points instead of 10 quantity points. It's 90 seconds. That does not mean you need 90 points. Just focus on 2 to 3 suggestions you will give to this friend and make them good. Explain them with quality. The last thing is pacing it and pausing. In 90 seconds, you have a lot of time. Make sure to take deep breaths between sentences and relax, because this will test your patience and the way you speak as well as your pace. Now, when we look at the template for this question, it's pretty simple. You start with, hey, hello, how's it going? Or how are you doing if it is formal. Now let's talk about your, and this is where you talk about whatever the situation is as per the question. Now you're going to give 3 advices, and these 3 advices are going to start with connectors like firstly, also, and lastly, in sequence. These 3 connectors will start 1 point each, and each point will take 20-30 seconds. That means this body will take the most amount of time. Finally, you're going to finish off with something like, let me know your thoughts, a simple finish, but making sure we're hitting the conclusion. Now, if you want access to mock tests like these, as well as sample answers, plus a lot of free resources for your CELPIP exam, comment down below CELPIP, and I'll send you our free kit without any strings attached. Comment down CELPIP below and you'll find out how. Also, I'm going to move on to question number 2, but by the end of this video, stay tuned because I'll also tell you how you can get free feedback on speaking as well as get a guaranteed score like 65,000 other students have done. So stick till the end of this video. For now, let's look at question number 2. Here, your preparation time is 30 seconds. Your speaking time is 60. Talk about a time when you dealt with someone with a harsh temper. What did you do and how did you get the situation under control? These questions are situation-based, and it's always going to talk about a past event most likely. The first thing, again, you want to do is use 2 to 4 points max. Don't overdo it. If you're talking about too many points, remember, it's just a minute. You won't be able to do it effectively. My sweet spot is 3 points only, and I'll describe them well. The next thing is using adjectives to describe your experience. Now again, you're talking to someone who has given you a harsh time, they have harsh temper. Talk about how it made you feel. Did it make you feel terrible, exhausted, frustrated? Use adjectives, it helps define the answer, task response, and you also get your marks for the range of vocab by using good expressions and adjectives. Use also good connectors like overall at the end to summarize everything. And you would, in one sentence, want to say, overall, this was a really difficult person, but I think we handled it well. This just sums up everything you're saying. It's kind of you rephrasing everything. Now, when we look at the template for this one, you start with, this is surely a, and here you put whatever topic this looks like. This is surely a difficult topic, an interesting topic, a controversial topic, depending on what you're talking about. And now you will explain what you want to say. And I would like to talk about, and I'll say, or I will discuss this time when, and talk about that. The next thing throughout your speaking you want to pay attention to are connectors such as accordingly, moreover, similarly, likewise. Remember, you're going to be connecting a lot of points, so make use of good connectors because a lot of people skip that and just say and those filler words are going to kill your marks. Last thing is finishing up with overall, as we have discussed. Let's look at question number 3. Here you get a picture type of question like this one, and you are asked to describe what is happening in the picture. Now, you can see a lot of things are happening here, and pictures always differ. So let's jump into the tips. The first thing is you want to find 3 to 4 main things first, because again, it's 60 seconds. You won't be able to say everything. So we'll look at that picture in a second, but also let's look at the next tip, which is describing their feelings and expressions. Let's have a look here. So again, in this picture, there's so many things happening, I can't talk about everything. So what I will do is first point out how everybody here is in activity. They're either exercising or running. Next thing I'm going to point out is the scenery. It's not a residential area or industrial. It's a park, it's outside, and there's lots of greenery. Third thing I can talk about is this part right here, which looks like a fountain, and a lot of people are surrounding it, which makes it an entertaining place. If I have the time to find a fourth thing, I'm going to talk about this pavement here away from the grass, and this is a walking area where a lot of people are again doing multiple activities. So I can talk about the 3 to 4 main things, ensuring I don't miss the main things, and if I have extra time, I'm going to cover the rest. Now let's go to our template for speaking task 3. You want to start by talking about the nature of the picture. So you would say this picture is quite chaotic, which fits this scenario. Interesting, alarming, vivid. But vivid means clear. So depending on the picture, you start with that. Now you say on the plus location. So on the left, on the right, at the back, towards the front, whatever the location is, you point that out. An important word here also that CELPIP examiners love is foreground and background. So foreground is basically whatever is happening towards the front of the picture. Background is towards the back of the picture. Talk about what's happening in the foreground, what's happening in the background. Good words to use. Make sure to also use passive voice. A lot of you just use active. So it's like, I can see this happening, or I can see this. Also say, this can be seen, this can be observed. A good mixture of active and passive voices give you the range of sentences that give you great marks. Last thing is, those would be the main features of this picture. So this is going to be your final sentence just as a conclusion. The next question, the fourth question, is the same thing. It is the same picture, but now you're being asked, what do you think happens next in the picture? So here you're going to predict what happens in the next few minutes. And that's one of the tips. Tip number 2 says, think of the next 15 minutes, exactly what's going to happen instantaneously. Now, what's going to happen tomorrow or the year after. Next 15 minutes is the predictions you're going to make. The first tip is you want to use words like might happen, may, possibly will happen, could happen. Remember these words, they're good vocabulary for this type of question. The last thing is give reasonings behind your guesses. Don't just say this will happen, explain why this will happen. So this will happen because this person is currently doing this. Let's look at the template. We're going to start with, in the next few minutes, and now you're going to talk about I can see this, or I can tell that this is going to happen, or I assume this will take place next. Now you're going to use connectors here, and these are different from the previous connectors. So here we're saying words like on top of that, what's more, in much the same way. These connectors are longer connectors. So the examiner got one-worded connectors in part 3, and here they're getting multiple phrases in connectors. So you're showing the examiner your capability of using a range of expressions and a range of vocab, which gives you great marks. You also want to use words like most likely will happen, most probably will happen. This combination of adjective plus adverb increases your range again, gives you more marks. Last thing is, your conclusion could be something like this. These are the most likely outcomes based on what I can see. And that's a wrap. Next question is speaking task 5. Here you're presented with a situation and 2 options. You have 60 seconds to look at these 2 options. You're not going to speak at this time. Here in this question, if you want to read it, you can pause the video. Your friend has some free time and he or she is selecting between painting or playing a musical instrument. These are the features of each and you have to pick one. So you have to click one in 60 seconds. If you don't, the computer will do it for you. So please do it before the computer. Now, after 60 seconds, you will get another 60 seconds of preparation time. And during this time, what you will see on the screen is what your friend ultimately decided. So they decided to do gardening and you have selected painting. Assuming you did that, now you have 60 seconds to look at your features and your friend's features. Then you will have 60 seconds where you have to speak and talk about how your points are better than your friend's points and convince them how your points are better. Now, a very important tip here, very, very important, is you want to compare both sides. That's tip number 1. And look at tip number 2. Tip number 2 says look at step number 1, because a lot of you miss this, and that's why a lot of you lose marks. You don't just say the things you like about your option. Talk about the other side. You are supposed to compare and contrast. So mention both things in this picture. Now, When you look at tip number 3, you want to use words like however, nevertheless, nonetheless, because you're going to be talking about your points. Then you will say, however, this is better here. You'll talk about, you have all these things. Nonetheless, in my opinion, this is better. Use contradictory words. This will show the examiner you are truly comparing. You want to finish with words like, I understand that you want this, however, this is better. Or throughout speaking, I understand that you like this, I understand that, whatever. Just don't overdo it. Remember, we're supposed to keep a range of expressions. Let's look at the template here. You want to start right away with hey or hello. Hey informal, hello formal. Now, say hope you are well. We don't have time to say how are you, because that's usually with a pause, and this is going to be a fast speaking in 60 seconds. So we just say hello, whatever, whoever. Hope you're well. I reviewed your option of, talk about the option, which comes with whatever it comes with. Talk about 1 to 2 features here. Nevertheless, I prefer this option because it comes with whatever. And you can see here, I have said multiple features in my very first sentence. And you want to start with the strong start because time is limited. And if you can say multiple things like that, you will save a lot of time and cover a lot of ground in less amount of time. Next, you want to use words like plus, also likewise. The connectors here are one-worded small connectors because you will be rushing to finish in time. So don't overdo the connectors. Next, you want to finish with what are your thoughts? This is going to be your last sentence, or you could also say curious to know your thoughts. Both are really good ways to finish. Speaking task 6. You get a question like this. In this case, your teenager has been offered an internship opportunity, or he or she can work a summer program in a university. So you're usually given 2 options. Preparation time is 60 seconds, the longest one after task 5, and speaking time is 60 seconds too. You got a long preparation time because you have to look at a very long question and ultimately pick one of the 2 options. A or B. Now, whatever option you pick, you're going to convince this person why your option is better. And you want to acknowledge, first of all, them. Don't just talk about, hey, I have these benefits, but also talk about, hey, I understand you want this, and then move to your point. You also want to apologize and recommend. A lot of times in these questions, you made an error or you can't come to their party. So you want to serve the role of making the apology, being apologetic. But in this case, as you can see, and in many questions, you have to recommend something. So in the second stage, you either apologize or recommend based on the question. And lastly, you will provide an alternative. So what else can the friend do if they cannot do what they wanted to do? Let's look at the template for task 6. And remember, at the end of this video, you're going to get the guaranteed formula of passing your exam. So stay tuned. The first thing you want to say is, hey, hello, depending on the tone. Let's talk about, and then in this case, I would say to my teenager, let's talk about your summer plans. Shall we? Shall we is the next thing you would say. Now, pause a little, 1 second, and then go with your next sentence. I fully understand that these are the options, or I fully understand that you prefer this, whatever the scenario is, but show your acknowledgement. I fully understand that, whatever. Then get into your apology and recommendation. Now, I have mentioned here you need to use a slow tone, and it applies here too, because this whole thing is where you show your emotional intelligence. It's not going to be like, hey, look, I'm sorry that I can't do this. Let's move on to, it should be slow and sincere. I fully understand you want this. However, we just don't have the resources to get it done right now. I recommend keep it professional, keep it good and natural, and have a good tone, make it slow as well. Finally, at the end, you would say words like, let me give you an alternative if you have another alternative, or let me propose this. It usually works very well with apologies. So you cannot attend your wife's birthday party. So you can say, hey, I have work that day, etc., etc., apology. At the end, you can say, well, if I can't make it this time, let me offer you something else. Let's do another birthday party next week when I am back. And that is going to be the way you finish. Next question, speaking task 7, is a debate. Gyms should only cater to one gender per location. Do you agree or disagree? Here, your preparation time is 30 seconds. Your speaking time is 90 seconds. This is, again, the second longest question after task 1. So what you want to do in this debate type of question is first give your opinion, then mention 2 to 3 points supporting your opinion. Use passion. Make sure to be passionate. It is a debate. You don't want to just talk robotically. Say what you believe in and make it sound like you really do believe in it and show fake passion or real if you talk about a real topic. Use examples if you can, talk about real world examples to back up your claims. It makes your argument that much better. Now, the template is going to be between this, talk about the first option, between this and this is an obvious choice. And that's obviously going to be your opinion. Due to, and now you put a brief sentence, due to economic reasons, due to health-related reasons, due to several reasons. Now you're going to go with, first of all, first point. What's worse, now you have to go negative. Talk about the other side and talk about how that is terrible. What's worse is if you go with that option, you have these problems. Lastly, let's not, and I put that in brackets because if you can use it, great. If you cannot use let's not, then it's okay. You can just use lastly. But what I would do is, lastly, let's not pretend that co-gyms are beneficial for genders. They are distracted when they're in that situation. Go with that kind of start, and that again shows passion. So for points 2 and 3, you are inserting passion using my templates here. When you say what's worse and you go negative, and when you say lastly, let's not pretend that you go negative again, and once again you show passion. Even if you don't want to show it, you'll be forced to show it, and you need to show it to gain the maximum marks. Last thing you want to say is, let me finish up by saying that, and then rephrase your opinion here. Let's look at our last question. Speaking task 8, and this is always very different. In this case, you're at a campsite, you see the scene. That's what the question is saying, and you gotta record it, apparently, in a voice recorder, talk about your experience. So remember, this question is always very different. It's really situation-based. What you see here can be very different in another exam. Just make sure when you get the situation, be informal or formal appropriately. Make sure you're using the right tone, addressing whoever needs to be addressed. Also, it's like part 3. Okay, part 3 was the picture question where you were describing a picture. So here you have to describe a picture as well. However, here you have the addition of conditions, which means you're recording in a voice recorder. Sometimes you're calling your friend, telling them about the experience. It always depends, so make sure to add that in terms of the picture description and not just describe the picture. The template here is, hi. Just say that instead of being hey, hello, instead of trying to confuse yourself, just say hi, because this is again gonna test your ability to finish on time. So you say hi, and then you start with I was hoping to, or I wanted to. Now, I wanted to is more informal. I was hoping to is formal, obviously. Make sure it's tone appropriate. And I try to use I was hoping to because it is more formal, it is more different. I wanted to is kind of basic, but if I'm talking to my wife about this campsite, I'm not going to say I was hoping to. So I'm going to be very natural. Accordingly, make sure you use the right start. Next thing you want to do is make sure you use active and passive voice. Once again, with the picture question, I am emphasizing that because a lot of you just use active and that does not have enough range. The next thing is you want to use words like toward the left, closer to the right, moving on to the center. And here you can see we're using longer connectors instead of just saying on the left or on the right. Because now we're showing the examiner that, hey, the way we connected stuff in part 3 versus in part 8 is different. We can do different things. We have a range and you need that. You need to show that to gain your marks. Next one is connectors, which are in much the same way. Likewise, furthermore, just different connectors compared to what you were using earlier, just an additional list for you. The condition-based conclusion is going to be a factor here because here, in this case, I would just say, well, based on all these factors, I think this is the best campsite I've ever seen. Now, that's what I'm doing here in my recording. If the question in the condition asks me to call someone and ask about this campsite you saw online, can you please tell me more about this campsite and how much it costs? I'm going to be looking forward to your phone call. So it depends on how the question is phrased and what you need to do. Make sure it's appropriate to that. Now, if you want a guaranteed way to pass your exam, check out our 15-hour self-paced course down below in the description and the shop link. This already has more than 65,000 customers worldwide. This includes exam-like challenging mock tests, the best tips, worksheets, as well as 15 hours of dedicated video right now at a huge discount. Check it out in the description.